Welcome back. We're working on the Dakota again with the hemi swap on the TR6060. I've done a little more work off camera. I've ended up slotting the frame mounts for the engine mounts down just a bit to drop the engine like I wanted to. So far that's worked out. I've still got to touch it up a bit more. I'm clearing my brake booster by just a tiny little bit. Doing some studying. It looks like I can get a Jeep Grand Cherokee booster, and it is even more narrow. I think depth-wise it's probably about the same, judging from pictures. I've got a 96. I'm going to run up at some point and go look at it and see if the bulb pattern's the same, just to make sure before I order one. But that will give us a little more room, because right now you're never getting that coil out. It's tight on my truck, and you do have to fish the coil out. So with the smaller brake booster, we'll probably be fine. In the end, I don't want to go to manual brakes yet. I can lose the ABS. It's probably not going to function anyway because I'm not really going to worry about that. Factory computer, all that crap will be gone. Running with the Holley Terminator X-Max. What else I figured out? So that worked. Started clearancing for the starter. I cut one notch, not deep enough. Let's crawl under here. I notched this guy for our oil filter. And now that's got plenty of room. So I'll clean that up. I want to get me a flap disc, but that's solved. I've got the Challenger cooler at work. I might see if it will fit. It looks like it could fit, maybe. So maybe. Notch slid down, notch slid down. I've got the trans sitting on a jack stand. I've still got plenty of room here. So I could come down a little more, but looking from the back side, it looks like the passenger side's still up a hair. So the engine's all rocked over. So I'll fix that. I think I may have solved the control arm issue. Maybe. If it doesn't work, it's gonna work. But we will get into that whenever the control arms actually get here. I'll test fit everything before I talk about what I was gonna do. So the Holley high ram base should be here today. I ordered a scratch and dent from eBay, so hopefully it's not too scratched or too dented. Not cheap enough. I didn't want the forward facing ones, why I didn't want to buy the set. So I've got the base coming and I've got the side feed. I'm hoping it'll slide right through here just fine. Hoping it'll slide through here just fine, nice and neat. So turbo, intercooler, out, in, done. Oh, I've also figured out this is the power steering pump that I had on my 360. I was trying to figure out how to get a power steering pump on a Gen 3 Hemi, but I guess the truck still, you could get one early enough that had a power steering pump. So I might get it, but this standard 3-bolt pattern fits where the bracket was. So that's kind of hooked back up. That'll kind of go right back where it was. No big deal. It almost looks like, I'm kind of curious if the lower radiator hose for the Dakota happens to fit that. There might be another piece figured out. I'm going to grab it and we're going to try it. Just trying to solve all these puzzles so I can get as many parts on the way as possible. I've also ended up ordering the Holley cross member for the transmission. I put my tubular one in and it is just a mile off. It's not the strongest piece because it only bolts right here and it's a pretty thin tube, but the mount ends up so high up. The mount ends up so high up here that yeah, I could make something, but it's gonna be silly. And for the 200 and whatever dollars, I think it's just under 300 bucks, we'll just bolt the bastard in and then we'll be done. It's also more rigid. It uses all 4 bolts, and the way it's made, it's kind of got a spine, so it probably gives some rigidity back to the chassis. So all good things. The moving the engine down that little bit got me the clearance I needed so that I could still be at my 3 degrees down but not up against the floor. It's really tight but not touching. But I want to see how that radiator hose fits. That's one more piece. Let's try that. Not so much. Way too tall. So I'm gonna grab the keys from my 4th gen and see what this hose looks like. We can also measure the top hose too, because the 4th gen raiment comes up and over. So we can check that out too. That's a no-go on the upper and the lower. The upper is heading the right direction, but the distance between the engine and the radiator is much more, of course. And the lower is way longer. Much different. So those aren't it. So I'll probably Google it a bit and see what other people are using if they've got a good, easy solution. I do not care for those flex hoses. I'll use it, but I'm not a big fan. So I'll avoid it if I can. Pulled it out again, slotted them some more. Well, the driver's side, sorry, passenger side some more. I still got to come down another 1/16 of an inch. It just keeps giving me room. I'll show you what the starter looks like now. It's almost there. I've still got to notch it even more, but I think this is going to be the last time it comes out. I've also kind of figured out that my body bushings may be clapped. So I may be able to get some new bushings and gain myself some more room, because that looks a little mushed. I haven't seen a healthy one. Maybe that is what healthy looks like. But I think I can get some energy suspension to polyurethane ones and give the truck just a tiny little boost while stiffening it up just a little bit. And that, if I'm right and those are worn out and sagging, that'll pick some of the stuff back up, and that'll help. I think the body's always had a little bit of an alignment issue. That's probably why. Partially because this thing's definitely been wrecked hard. The whole front clip is welded back on right here, right in front of the suspension, which is why that is so far off. See the original slot hole? Look how far over we are. So, not a perfect truck, but it'll be all right. So let's look at the starter one more time. So here's what the starter's looking like now. Goes up in the hole nice and easy. We're right at there, just barely not flat. So I've still got to notch this a little more. I'm not going to put the engine back in again for mock-up. I'm going to set this in here. I'm going to mark around it with a Sharpie, and then I'm going to cut outside of the line. Next time I get a chance, I'll probably get some flap wheels so I can clean up some other sharp edges and things. But that's pretty much going to be it for this. Off camera, I'm going to get this thing out one more time, get it on the engine stand, go get cleaned up, get all the metal dust off of me so it doesn't end up in the engine, and then we're going to rip this thing apart. I'm hoping my Holley high ram base is here right before I pull this out, but if it doesn't make it, it doesn't make it, and we'll test fit it after it's back in. But if you enjoyed this, thank you for watching. This one's hoping actually gets all the way together before I get distracted with life. I think I've got most of it figured out, except for like radiator hoses. I've still got to get a drive shaft. That's very expensive. Can be very expensive for a spline tube drive shaft. And they're anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000, I believe. So that's going to be the next big ticket item. Everything else I think I've got. I've got the Holley X-Max. I've got the harness. I've already got the Holley. It's either a 340 or a 450 fuel pump in the tank. So it's really easy to change it over to AN. I can even do the return system. It shouldn't be a big deal. Might not do the return system at first. We'll see. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you for watching.